בוקר טוב, שבוע טוב. As we are nearing Pesach, it's a frightening statement, but we are nearing Pesach. I thought that we would take a short break from our regular schedule of biographies shiurim and go into Pesach mode. As they say that one should 30 יום קודם הפסח, 30 days before Pesach, one should prepare himself. So that and that's what we would aspire to do. So what I try to do is also to tie it somehow to the timely events. And Pesach is very much about going through national and individual traumas and finding the path to grow out of them and to liberate ourselves. So I thought that would be very nice. We can learn some of the halachic topics of Leil HaSeder, but in light of this general theme of growing out of crisis. So what I try to do is somehow unite, as I say, halacha with machshava. So we will learn the halachot of different topics. In Mirza Hashem, today we learn about Birkat HaIlanot, the blessing on the blooming of the trees. And then next week, in Mirza Hashem, about matzah. And the week after it, which is already the week of Leil HaSeder. So I would make a short poll just before, just to make sure that people are interested. But on the week of Leil HaSeder, we'd have about matzah and maror. And as for now, I'm planning to be on Miluim for Pesach. So that would be on that Sunday would be the last show before the Miluim, and then in Mirza Hashem we would continue somewhere after the Chag. So that is right now the program. But as I think we all know, here in Israel, every program is the base for changes. So we just I have a nice flyer, but what would be able to apply? I'm coming very, very open and just letting things to happen as they fall. Okay, so as I said, today our topic is Birkat HaIlanot, the blessing of the trees. You have the source sheet. I am now also sharing it in the Zoom. Here it is. Yeah. So the source for Birkat HaIlanot can be found in just a second. Do you see it? I cannot see it. No, okay, I know that you can see it, but for some reason, I'm not. Just a second. I'm trying to reshare. Here. Okay. So again, I apologize. The source is in the Gemara, Talmud Bavli in Brachot, page 48, B, Memchet Amud Bet, Amar Rav Yehuda. So Rav Yehuda said, Haiman de nafik beyomi Nissan, him who goes out in the day of Nissan. V'chazi ilane, and he sees trees, the kamelavlevei, that they are blooming. אומר, ברוך שלא חיסר בעולמו כלום, so he bless הקדוש ברוך הוא for not, לא חיסר, there is nothing that is missing in his word, וברא בו בריות טובות, and he created good creatures, בריות טובות, good creatures, ואילנות טובות, and good trees, להתנאות בהן בני אדם, so to make use, להנות, right, for the benefit, for the enjoyment of human beings. That's the bracha, that's the Gemara, which is later recorded in the Shulchan Aruch, Hayotze, that's source bet, Hayotze b'imei Nissan, that's the Hebrew version of the Aramaic we just read, Hayotze b'imei Nissan, if someone goes out at the days of Nissan, or when someone goes out the day of Nissan, וראה אילנות שמוציאים פרח, and this is trees that bloomed, and here the Shulchan Aruch give the detail that for trees to bloom, that doesn't mean leaves, it means flowers. So the flowers Then he says, ברוך אתה השם אלוקינו מלך העולם, שלא חיסר בעולמו כלום. Again, it's the same bracha that blessed are you, Lord of the world, that nothing is missing in your world, וברא בו בריות טובות ואילנות טובות להנות בהם בני אדם, and you've created good creatures and good trees that human beings can enjoy. And the Shulchan Aruch adds, ואינו מברך אלא פעם אחת בכל שנה ושנה. So you do not bless this special bracha more than once a year. ואם איחר לברך, עד אחר שגדלו הפירות, also you have only a limited time frame. So your time frame is from the flowers begin to flower, I guess, to open, to when the flowers are no more. If you see the fruits, would maybe have thought that the fruits are even better to make the bracha on, because we enjoy the fruits more than we enjoy the flowers. However, says the Shulchan Aruch, אם איחר לברך, if you have been delayed, if you are late with your blessing, and the fruits have already grown, לא יברך עוד, you cannot make the blessing, the bracha, anymore. So that's in itself a very interesting halacha. And just speaking about this time frame, because it is not clear, does the bracha begins from when you see the flowers, or does the bracha begin on Nissan? Because on one hand we say that when you see the flowers, the trees blooming, then you make the bracha. On the other hand we say on the days of Nissan. Now, we know now, Baruch Hashem, many brachot that we make. Every day we make 100 brachot. 99% of them, I would say, are not time limited. So there is a bracha, I don't know, about shoes, right? Or about what we say every day in the morning, or about Shechianu that we say. Now, Shechianu is about time, but it is not at a certain time. If I eat the first apricot, right, of the year, so I may eat it in the beginning of the summer, in the middle of the summer. It's not a question of months, it's just a question when does the fruit come to the market, or even more, when do I get hold of the fruit? What it has to do with the date. Why here does the Gemara tie the question of the blessing into the date? Let's imagine that I have a shkedia, right? The shkedia is in English? Almond tree. So I have an almond tree. The almond tree is an early bloomer, as we know. So you come out already in Tu B'Shvat, out of your home, and Baruch Hashem, the almond tree is blooming. Why won't I make the bracha even before Nissan, already in Shvat, or at least in Adar? Why does the Gemara, why does the Shulchan Aruch limits me to Nissan? And then that for the beginning of the bracha. But the same question, as I already noted, can be asked about the end time of the bracha. Why is the last time of the bracha when there are the flowers? It seems that the fruits would make even a better opportunity to bless Hashem for having all of these nice things in our world. Why are we limited to the flowers? Now, just as a point of reference, we have another bracha much less known because we do not usually make it. But it is recorded in the Shulchan Aruch, just a few simanim earlier than the bracha we just mentioned. Excuse me, not even one siman earlier. And that is the bracha, look at source Gimel, הרואה אילנות טובות ובריות נאות. So if you go, it doesn't even say you should go out. If I see, maybe from the window of my home, I see nice tree, beautiful creature. It says, and I apologize, אפילו עכו"ם או בהמה. So even a non-Jew or an animal, להבדיל. אומר, ברוך אתה השם אלוקינו מלך העולם, שככה לא בעולמו. So you bless Hashem for creating such beautiful creatures. Well, I look around, I see beautiful trees, I see beautiful animals, I see beautiful human beings, Jews or non-Jews, and I can make a bracha on them. And you only bless the first time you see the view, not more than that, unless you see something that is nicer. That's how the Shulchan Aruch records it. Now, the Mishnah Brura, their notes, as you can see written here, עכשיו לא נהגו כלל לברך ברכה זו. Now, our minhag, we can have a whole shiur about brachot that fell out of use and the reasons for that. And it will be a very interesting topic because brachot sometimes go out of trend and sometimes there is a resurrection and they come back. There is a retro of certain brachot. So that's in itself a very interesting topic. It's not our topic today, but this is one of these brachot that fell out of fashion and basically is not being said anymore. The Mishnah Berurah explains in שער הציון, לי נראה משום דכוונת הגמרא דווקא כשהם נאות ביותר, only when we see very beautiful trees or animals. כדאית ברמב"ם, פרק י' בהלכות ברכות. ומי יוכל לדקדק בזה? So the Mishnah Berurah says, again, it's very interesting. There's this notion, we do not know what is beautiful and what is not. In the earlier days, right, our ancestors were able to say, this is beautiful, and that exclamation mark, and that's it. No qualifications and no notes and no but. But nowadays, you would say this thing is beautiful. They would tell you, no, the black is beautiful. You say the black is beautiful, the white is beautiful, the yellow is beautiful. Right? There is no end to that. So it's interesting. It's almost a postmodern notion that we cannot define what is beautiful anymore. And that's why we do not make this bracha. I don't know, again, it's a very interesting notion. It's beyond the scope of our shiur. But one thing is very clear, that this bracha, which fell out of use, is about the beauty of the tree or the animal or whatever it would be, the creature that was created by Hashem. But the bracha about the trees blooming, even if the tree is not so beautiful, right? Because no one told us that there is a problem reciting the bracha of Birkat HaIlanot of the blooming trees because we do not know what beautiful is. No, regardless of the tree being beautiful or not beautiful, you go out, you look for a tree that has these flowers, that is blooming. We'll speak later if need one tree, two trees, but you make the bracha. And it may be a beautiful tree. It may be not such a beautiful tree. I don't want to insult anyone. Of course, in my garden, there are the most beautiful trees in Tel Mond. But it may be that in your gardens, it's an old tree or twisted. And you look at it, it's not a masterpiece. However, it doesn't matter. For the sake of our bracha, it's not about the beauty. It's about the blooming. It's about the renewal. When there is a renewal, that is where we make the bracha. And that's how Rabbi Aaron HaLevi, that was one of the Rishonim, right, of the early commentaries on the Talmud, the early rabbinical authorities. So we speak here about the 40th century in Spain, so 600-700 years ago. And this says in source Daled, Kav'u bracha zo, so they stated this bracha, לפי שהוא עניין בא לזמן. This is something that comes once a year, and we may begin to form an answer to our first שאלה, first question, why specifically on Nissan, והוא עניין מחודש, this is something about renewal, שאדם רואה עצים יבשים, שהפריח הקדוש ברוך הוא. So the tree during the winter is losing its flowers. It's almost, now it depends on the tree. Obviously there are trees that are evergreen, always green, so they look more alive even during the winter. But there are many trees which during the winter, all their leaves fall to the ground, and the tree, you don't even know if it is alive or not. Now we know because we lived a few years in this world, so we know that spring would come and the tree would come back to life. But if you'd imagine a child, right, or Adam Arishon in the first year, and come winter, and all the trees are losing their leaves, and this stands there and says, no, that's the end of the world. No more greenery, no more trees. And then the trees come blooming back. There is a resurrection, a revival. That is what this bracha is about, yeah. The cinema, yeah. Exactly. And so that's and so there you can say the bracha. Now it may be that the tree is not very beautiful yet, but seeing it coming back to life, it's very important because that is the essence, according to Rabbi Aaron HaLevi, and I think according to the halacha that we saw up till now, and that I would, Be'ezrat Hashem, continue to develop this theme, that is the essence of this bracha about the renewal, about the coming back, the re-blooming into life. Okay.
אתה כן לברך evergreen trees?
Yes, because the question is not about the leaves, it's about the fruits. I used the example of the leaves just in order to have a better picture, a more accurate picture of the tree dead and then coming back into life. But even a tree that is green, but during the winter bears no fruits. And who knows, maybe you bear no fruits anymore. You know, sometimes it happens that certain trees, I don't know if they're because too old or because there is certain disease. I am not a big farmer. I have the best trees in Telmon, but that's not because of my farm agriculture skills. So sometimes trees just stop ceasing giving fruits. It can happen. So there is this chance. It would still be green, it would still be alive, but no more fruits. So when you see the trees blooming, then you make a bracha on this coming back into life. And let's give a few more examples for this. That's right, beautiful. That's right. So Kiddush Levana is once a month that the Levana, the moon, disappears. And again, we know that it would reappear, and we know it's not really the moon disappears, it's just the earth blocking the sun. We know. Knowing is very easy. But if you think about human beings without electricity in the streets and even without gas, right? No lamp, no street illumination. And so they dependent on the moon to have something during the night, and the moon disappears. So these are difficult nights. I can tell you that during our army service in this war, and also but during just regular army service, you are in places that are, when it's dark, when there is no moon, it's pitch dark. It's very, very difficult to navigate your way. And when there is a full moon, it's a completely different night. It's a completely different experience. So when the moon reappears, you stand there and you say a real Kiddush Levana for the reappearance of the moon, because it seems that things are done, are dark, and it's being reborn. Thank you. This idea is being brought here by Rav Asher Weiss. Rav Asher Weiss is a renowned, well-known posek and Magid Shiur in Yerushalayim. In the sources, he was I guess, a Tzanz Chassid, a Klausenberg Chassid, but he's very famous. He's giving shiurim everywhere. By the way, he's American born, so he has beautiful English shiurim. He's Brooklyn born, yeah. So you are, if you want to search, I guess that you can find maybe even this specific shiur about Birkat HaIlanot by him in English. So here it's from a written version of the lecture, and he says, so say, כתב בנשמת אדם, שאינו מברך ברכה זו אלא בראייה ראשונה, אבל אם ראה ולא ברך, שוב אינו מברך. כמו שכתב המגן אברהם בשם הרדב"א, זה בברכת שהחיינו. So he quotes here from חיי אדם, רב אדם דנציגר, from Vilna about 300 years ago, who wrote that you have only one chance to recite Birkat HaIlanot. So after Rosh Chodesh Nissan, when you see the trees blooming, the first time you must make your bracha. And if you missed your opportunity, that's it. You cannot make the bracha anymore because it's not new anymore. That was his ta'ana, his argument. But the Reb Asher Weiss disagrees, and many other poskim disagrees. And they say, I skip to the second paragraph here in source A, אך מפשטות לשון השולחן ערוך, שרק, I add, only, אם כבר גדלו הפירות, שוב אינו מברך. משמע שכל עוד לא גדלו הפירות, שפיר מברך, אף שלא ברך ביאה ראשונה. He says, the Shulchan Aruch says, when can you not recite the bracha anymore? After there are fruits. So obviously you saw the tree many times before there are fruits. So obviously the problem is not by being there is no issue. There is no problem, there is no preventation in making the bracha even on second or third sight, and he explains why. ולדרכנו נראה פשוט, שוודאי יכול לברך אף שלא על ראייה ראשונה. דשני ברכת שהחיינו או ברכת שככה לא בעולמו, שמברך על שמחת הראייה, ועיקר השמחה על ראייה ראשונה. מה שאין כן ברכה זו שעל חידוש הבריאה, מברך כל עוד האילנות מלבלבים, וכמו ברכת הלבנה, just exactly as David said, שאין צריך לברך דווקא על ראייה ראשונה. He says, it is a categorical error to think that you must make the bracha on first sight. Because where do you come with this notion that you must make the bracha on first sight? Just as in Shechianu. So you make the bracha for a cloth, right? When you wear it the first time, because in the second, the third time, it's not the same happiness. And the bracha is about the happiness. So either you make it on the first time, you cannot do it anymore. However, he says, when we make the bracha on the blooming of the trees, it's not about our happiness. It's not the beauty of the trees that make us happy, as in the bracha of kacha lo be'olamo that we do not make anymore. The bracha on the blooming of the trees is, as the name suggests, it's the bracha on the blooming of the trees. So even that maybe I am more moved at first sight than on second sight. But the bracha is not about me being moved. It's not about me being happy. It's about me celebrating the renewal. And the renewal is still there because it is a yearly thing, a yearly cycle. And he says exactly just as in the example of the Birkat HaLevana, that you don't need to do Kiddush Levana the first instant when you see the moon reappears. Our minhag is to wait for Motzei Shabbat because we say that Motzei Shabbat is better for certain reasons, and sometimes we can wait. I think this Adar we waited almost 2 weeks before we make. There was the first Motzei Shabbat with clouds, and then we waited for the next Motzei Shabbat, and we only said the Kiddush Levana on the second Motzei Shabbat. Now here there is a difference, Ashkenazim and Sfaradim, what the dates that you can make the Kiddush Levana. Of course, this year is not about Kiddush Levana, but the principle is the same principle. And that is that you make the bracha on the reappearance, on the object, and not or the phenomena, and not on your subjective emotions and feelings towards it. So you don't have to be restricted to first sight. That is another very interesting halacha regarding Birkat HaIlanot that again reflects the same principle, the same idea, the same notion that Birkat HaIlanot, the blessing on the trees, is really a blessing on the renewal of the trees. Another question that I think reflects the same theme, and that is a question of how many trees do I need in order to make the bracha? So that's a strange question. What do you mean? For Shechianu. So if I have a new foot, do I need 2 foots? No one ever said that. When I made the Shechianu on a cloth, I need 2 clothes. So of course, it's 1. Our brachot are always on 1. Why would we think that on Birkat HaIlanot we need more than 1? However, there is a tradition among the poskim that at least lechatchila, so at least for some type of a hidur, as what should be done to begin with. It may be that bedi'evet ipso facto, right? After the fact, if there is no 2 trees that you can find, make the bracha on 1 tree as well. But lechatchila, you should try and look for 2 trees, at least. And maybe even a whole orchard, if you can. Orchard. A whole orchard, if you can. Now, why is that? You can see here in the Tzitz Eliezer, Rabbi Eliezer Wallenberg was a posek Yerushalmi of the 20th century. He passed away about 20 years ago, maybe a little more. And he was the posek of Shari Tzedek for a long time. So he has many interesting tshuvot in halacha and medical and refuah. But he also has many volumes of responsa. And in one of these responsa, he deals with the question of Birkat HaIlanot. And he says, do we need 1 tree? source ו' אודות חקירת כבוד תורתו האחרונה. אם יש לברך אף על אילן אחד, או צריך לכל הפחות 2 אילנות. Can I make the bracha, recite the bracha on 1 tree, or do I need at least 2 trees? And he quotes from another posek, halachot ktanot. This is Rav Chagiz from about 500 years ago in Yerushalayim, and he says, "De'en levarech ela al ribui ilanot." You need many trees. והחידה בספרו מורה באצבע. So the Chida, again, 400 years ago, 300 years ago, and he says that you need המדקדקים מקפידים, so those that are stringent, they make sure that they would have 2 trees. וניתן לדייק מזה דסביר עלי שזהו לדקדוקה ולא מקרדין. As I said, that's only a stringency. But if you don't have 2 trees, it's better make the bracha on 1 than not making it. However, he says that many things that you need 2. Now, why is that? So, maybe because in the bracha we say ilanot, not ilan, so ilanot. But that's only begs the question, why would Chazal formulate the wording of the bracha in such a way that you speak about many trees, not about 1? However, I humbly suggest that if we hold, as I try to argue here, that the purpose of this bracha is about the phenomena of the blooming. It's not about me being moved by 1 tree. Again, if you would again reconsider the bracha of kacha lo be'olamo, right, about the beautiful creatures, there it's enough to see 1 tree. You see 1 tree, it is beautiful tree. You are being moved. You make the bracha kacha lo be'olamo. However, our bracha is not about the beauty. It's about the phenomena. It's about this thing that happens. So it's not about 1 tree. You need to see a few trees in order to know that it's not only 1 early bloomer, but it is what is happening in the world, in the reality around us. So 1, only make it an incident, but 2, make it into a real thing that we can identify, that does happen. Excuse me?
Take 2 witnesses.
Wow, that is very beautiful. Right. So we say regarding edim, regarding witnesses, that we cannot rely on 1 for many things. We cannot rely on 1 witness. We require 2. Why? Because 1, even if you would not say that maybe he's lying, but maybe he's mistaken. Because 1 incident cannot prove a rule. When you have 2, and you, as they say, if you have 2 points, you can make a line between them, then I can already know that there is a rule in war here. Yeah, it's beautiful. So the 2 trees are like a testimony that the spring is here, that the blooming is here. Beautiful. Yeah, thank you. Wow. Wow, I didn't think about it. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So you need these different trees in order for the flowers to really be able to produce the fruits. Beautiful. Wow. Thank you. That's wow. These are wonderful thoughts. Next time I need to bring a pen and write to myself the notes that you're. It's beautiful. Okay. Yeah, it is recorded, but I don't have the ability to speak and write at the same time. Thank you. So I'll write. Yeah, רועי, תכתוב לי את 2 ההערות האלה, בסדר? גם על פרקת הלבנה וגם על העדות וגם על ההפריה של הפירות. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Okay. Another question that the poskim deal with. What about orla? Sometimes we have in our garden trees that are still in their first 3 years from planting, or maybe it's not even planting, or even replanting can cause sometimes the clock to elapse, and you need to count the 3 years anew. And the fruits that are going to come out of these flowers are not eatable. Can you make a bracha on flowers that would make fruits that you'd not be allowed to eat? I think you know where I'm going with it, but let's read it inside. This time I'm quoting from the Ben Ish Chai, Rav Yosef Chaim, about 100 years ago in Baghdad. A very, very important posek. So Zain. Sheila. So that is from his response. בעל הבית שיש לו 2 ו3 אילנות נטועים בחצרו. So we have a בעל הבית, we have a householder that have 2 or 3 trees planted in his garden, שיש בהם פרחים. Beautiful trees, you have flowers, okay, everything is beautiful. והוא אינו יכול לצאת חוץ לעיר לברך בניסן על האילנות. Now, immediately, even before he asks the question, he needs to explain that for some reason this Baal Habayit is limited, right? Is confined to his home. Maybe there is a corona, maybe some other reason. So he cannot go out of his home, and these are the only trees that he can see. הוא מוכרח לברך על אלו. אך הם אילנות של עורלה. But these trees are עורלה. They are still in these first 3 years. ולא יש אילן אחד בחצרו שעברו עליו שנות עולה. He doesn't have even one tree in his garden. It's a new home, it's a new garden. He just planted. And it's still in the first years. האם מותר לו לברך על אלו ברכת האילנות? Is he allowed to make a blessing of ברכת האילנות? או דילמה, או maybe, כיוון דברותיהם אסורים, because the fruits are forbidden, בהנאה, even in enjoying, אסור לברך עליהם ברכת האילנות, so you cannot make a ברכת האילנות, יורנו המורה לצדקה, ושכרו כפול מן השמיים, so give us an answer, a rightful, a just answer, and your reward would be double from heavens. תשובה, so the response, the answer. He says, נראה שמותר לברך. Ben Ish Chai says, it is allowed to make the bracha even on trees that are still orla. It then goes into long discussion analyzing if this is considered enjoying from a fruit that you are not allowed to enjoy. I skip it here. The short answer is, it's not called enjoyment. I continue. אף על גב דמברך שברא אילנות טובים לענות בהם בני אדם, although the language of the blessing is that we bless Hashem for giving us good trees that human beings can enjoy, and I cannot enjoy the fruits of these trees, so how can I make the bracha on a tree I'm not allowed to enjoy? הנה גם אילנות אלו עומדים ליהנות בהם בני אדם, אחר שיעברו שני עורלה, so these trees would also be enjoyable after the passing of the 3 years of עורלה, ועתה הוא מהלל שמו יתברך, and now he blesses the name of God, כשרואה פעולה של האילן לפניו. He says, you do not bless for the fruits, for the flowers that are in front of you. It's not like the Shechianu. No one in his right mind would say, make a Birkat Shechianu on a fruit that is inedible, that you are not allowed to eat. Right? You make the Birkat Shechianu only in something that you are able to enjoy. But the tree of Ola, you are making the bracha. Why? Because you see here the phenomena of renewal. And one day you'll be able to enjoy it. So it would not be these flowers. It would be future flowers. But this is a renewal that makes the enjoyment from the world possible. So again, the same idea surfaces. And that is that the bracha of Birkat HaIlanot is not about enjoyment. It's not about beauty. It's not about the specific tree. It's about the, I'm keep saying phenomenon. Give me another word, so just be a rich language. But this aspect, right, of renewal, of renewing, of reblooming, of resurrection, basically, of Tchiyat HaMeitim, right, that we see in the world. And now I think we can come back a full circle to the question we began with. So why can't I do it on Adar or on Shvat? If I have an early bloomer tree in my garden, right, even 2 trees, a shkedia, an almond tree, and another tree which flower early, in my garden, the citrons, right, we have flowers. We already have flowers. So why won't he make a bracha on the orange tree and the lemon tree that we have in our garden that are already blooming, although today is still 4 days ahead of Rosh Chodesh Nissan? So the answer, I think, is clear, because you do not make a bracha on the specific trees that may be this kind of tree and that kind of tree may be early bloomers. You make a bracha on the world being reborn. And this is Nissan. Nissan is about the world being reborn. So only when the trees reflect a more general trend, that is when you can make the bracha on them. Because again, you do not make the bracha for the specific trees in front of you. They are only the trigger. When you see the trees that before you, they are the trigger that allows you to make the bracha on the whole phenomena of reblooming in the world. And this is also pasken by, here I quote from the responsa Har Tzvi, written by, whoa, excuse me. Yes, I'll see. I apologize. The name momentarily escaped me. I'm sure that he was a Rav in Yerushalayim, Rav Tzvi Pesach Frank. Yes, Rav Tzvi Pesach Frank. He was a Rav in Yerushalayim in the first half of the 20th century, a very prominent posek. And in his response, he writes the following: הקפידה הוא על אותו החודש שנבחר מצד ההשגחה להיות לו טבע זה של צמח ולבלובי דאילנה. He says, the kfeda, what we are after, what we try to look for, is we need the month that was chosen by Hashem to be the nature of the reblooming, of tzimuach, of the growing of the trees. And then he has a very interesting implication. He says, מכיוון דנאמר, דכל עיקר זמן דיומי ניסן ומשום שהברכה נקבעה לברך בזמן המיוחד לצמיחת האילנות. So if the bracha is being said because it's nature, and that is the time of the nature to rebloom, שוב ממילא מובן, so we can extrapolate from that, דבאותם המדינות הרחוקות. If you speak about the distance lands, right? Maybe some of you here are from these strange lands in which blooming is not on Nissan, right? These are the people that walk with their heads towards the right, upside down. So in these, I'm joking, of course. So in these places, you cannot make Birkat HaIlanot in Nissan for the simple reason that Nissan is not spring. So are you chained to Nissan, says the Har Tzvi? No, because you make the bracha according to the nature in the place you are. Just as you keep Shabbat according to the place where you are, and it may be that, it is, that at the same time, if I would do melacha here in Eretz Israel, it would be Shabbat, and in the USA it's not Shabbat yet, and vice versa. So the same way, it's not about Nissan, it's about the time of blooming. So if you live in a place in which the blooming is in a different season, no, it's not, it's the same season, but it's in a different time on the calendar, then you'd make the bracha according to the time. That's halacha. That's halacha. That's where you make, by the way, I would ask, what do people do? Yeah. That's right. There they did not fall. That's why. That's because of Bavel. For some reason, which is again beyond our scope right now, it was decided that the Tfilat Shmona Esrei is according to what in Chutz La'aretz is according to Bavel, not according to Eretz Israel, but Bavel became like the paradigm, the standard, the gold standard for Chutz La'aretz in Barech Aleinu, and that's how it remained. Some poskim disagreed, but that's the bottom line is that this is the minhag that is the custom today. It's a very good note, but that would require its own shiur. So yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's very important. But so people coming from the south and emphasize, can someone tell me, or maybe the bracha is just not being recited? Interesting. No, it has nothing to do with me. It has a lot to do with Eretz Israel, but
fruit,
no trees in Brooklyn. In this time of the year or in no time of the year? So they didn't plant fruit trees?
But it's unusual. Forces is very much a Rabban.
Yeah, it's a Rabbanan. You're right.
Custom that came much later.
Yeah, it is a Rabbanan, but it's already recorded in the Talmud. So it is at least 1,500 years old. So that makes it pretty ancient.
I mean, there's a lot of respect in Torah for trees.
Yes.
So they obviously bring their sources, I guess, from there.
Yeah, you're right. Obviously, the trees are. I would, Bezat Hashem, that's a very good. That's a very good note. I would, Bezat Hashem, relate to it in a few minutes. Okay,
You can't find fruit trees in Brooklyn.
You cannot find. That's very interesting. Okay, that's very interesting. So again, however, so we just said that you are making the bracha according to the place where you are, and the nature in the place where you are, because again, the bracha is about nature. However, of course, when you are in Eretz Israel, and in that, I think all of you are right, it as in many other mitzvot, while you can fulfill them in Chutz La'aretz, they get much greater meaning, much deeper layers when they are being performed in the Holy Land, in Eretz HaKodesh, in Eretz Israel. And Birkat HaIlanot is one of them. Because when you make it on Chutz La'aretz, so you make the bracha on the nature. But when you make it in Eretz Israel, and it is on Nissan, then it is also connected not only with the reblooming, the reflowering of nature, but also with the rebirth of the Jewish people, of Am Israel. And that is explicited by Rav Yosef Tzvi Rimon in a very nice, I didn't bring it here, a very nice sefer he published just a few years ago. Maybe some of you are familiar with Rav Rimon. He's now Rav in Alon Shvut. And he has a very nice sefer, thin sefer about Nissan and Yar. So it's very Nissan without Pesach. So everything regarding the Nissan which is not Pesach, which Pesach requires its own sefer. So it's Birkat HaIlanot, and you have Sfirat HaOmer, and you have Yom HaAtzmaut and Yom HaZikaron, and it delves into that. And it says Birkat HaIlanot, so state, Shayechet lechodesh Nissan. So the bracha of the trees belongs to Nissan. The Gemara says, שהסימן המובהק ביותר לגאולם, it should be גאולתם, right? That's a typo, mind tape, corrected. לגאולתם של ישראל הוא פריחת הארץ. So the best sign to know that Am Israel are being, redeemed, salvation, is when you see Eretz Israel reblooming. So it's not only about nature. It's about coming back to the land. So, as we all know, you can just read the description by Mark Twain and others, very famous, from their journeys into Eretz Israel just 200 years ago. And they speak about a completely desolated place. As the Torah promised, V'shamemu alea oivechem, your enemies will be desolated. And all of the efforts to make this place into a habitable place were failed. And as we all know, when the first settlers came here, they met with swamps and with malaria and with diseases. It was a backward country. And Rabbi Abba said, when you see the flowering of the land, this is the most explicit end of times, he says. שנאמר ואתם הרי ישראל, ענפיכם תיתנו, ופריכם תישאו לעמי ישראל. So the mountains and the trees of Eretz Israel would only give fruits when the Jewish people would come back. And now that seems like something that is impossible. But just what happened? You cannot argue with reality. It's just historical reality. פריחת האילנות ובוא האביב בחודש ניסן, he says. So the reblooming of the trees and the coming of the spring in Nissan are not just an incident and technical. הם סימן שמדובר בחודש של גאולה והתחדשות. It's a sign for a month of redemption and renewal. That is why the renewal of creation specifically belongs to that time. And Chachamim wanted maybe that it would be this month of Nisan when we would note the renewal of nature and bless also for the blooming tree, and that's why they made that it would be in Chodesh Nisan when the bracha of the Ilanot would be made, which I think is a beautiful connection. So we have the blooming of nature, we have the blooming of the nation, but very, very interestingly, and here I am crossing the line into areas which I am less, not just less, I'm unknowledgeable, knowledgeable in them. However, I would like to share with you what is just written in some of the books, and it's extremely interesting. So we spoke about nature, we spoke about nation. What about individuals? So there is a very interesting notion in poskim that are more close to Kabbalah. And they see Birkat HaIlanot in very important light. So it goes more with the Sephardic, usually, bench of poskim, but there are also some Ashkenazic poskim that go in this derech, in this way. Here I quote from the Chida. So the Chida says, source you, the last source here. השתדל לברך ברכת אילנות בימי ניסן. So you need to try that the bracha of Ilanot would be on Nissan specifically, not after, though we can do as long as there are still flowers on the trees, even after the month of Nissan, but try your best to do it on Nissan specifically. Why? המדקדקים מקפידים שיהיה בניסן דווקא, ויש שתי אילנות, and you'd have at least 2 trees, ויוצאים לשדה and go out. Because you remember the Gemara said, man de nafak. You have to go. Why to go? Why can't I just sit in my home and look through the window? Why do I need to go out? Going out is part of this notion of renewal. Do not stay in your place. Go out. And then he continues, מאוד יתעצם בכוונתו בברכה זו. He says you should make the best of intention when you make this bracha. Why? And as I said, that's a peek into a word that is very interesting. שהיא לתיקון הנשמות שהן מגולגלות בעצי השדה והעשבים בזמן הזה, ויבקש עליהם רחמים. So again, I will just explain in a very simple manner. But the מקובלים say that sometimes after a person dies, then his neshama has to come back into this world. Right, that's called Gilgul. Again, some agreed, some disagreed that this exists. I'm going now with the notion of the Mekubalim. So there is a Gilgul. The neshama comes back. Now, the neshama can come back into another human being. It can come back into an animal. And the lowest form would be if it would come back into a tree. And the neshama would suffer, they say, when they are inside the trees, because the tree is, again, a very low form of life. And the neshama is much higher and much bigger, and it is confined in a cage in the tree. It cannot move, it cannot think, it cannot advance. And he says, by making the bracha on the tree and its fruits, you cause the neshama that was jailed in it to be reborn, and it can escape. It can come out of the tree. Now, again, I have very minimal knowledge and understanding in the shamot being reborn and into trees, but I'm going to give it a little twist and just turn the lenses into ours. We are sometimes, we can be, and we should aspire to be the best human beings we can be. But sometimes our neshama is being transformed, chas v'cheila, into an animal. And sometimes we may even go less, and we are stuck, just as the tree can be stuck. We are stuck in one place. And the winter is very much being stuck, right? It's a stuffiness. You are stuck in your home. It's raining. It's mud outside. So you stay home where it's warm and safe and secure. But spring comes and you need to go out. You need to be reborn. Sometimes we are stuck in what we believe are our limitations. So we are stuck with an idea that this is what I can do, this is what I cannot do, and this is who I am. That's not a good thought. That's a tree thought. This is who I am. Right? The tree cannot move. But we as human beings, we can become something which we are not right now. That is maybe the best thing about human beings, is our ability to change, to adapt, and to aspire to more, and to grow. And so the bracha on the blooming of the trees is also an opportunity for ourselves, if we are stuck in what we believe is our limitations, if we are stuck in a certain crisis as individuals, as human beings, or as a nation, to get inspired by nature. So if nature reblooms, we can also release ourselves from this prison. Nafak, we can go out of the prison in which we are stuck, and to say Birkat HaIlanot for the sake of the neshama that are inside the tree, for the sake of our neshama, for the sake of Am Yisrael, for the sake of nature, and thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for this ability that he gave us to be reborn. I think that's a beautiful way to look at Birkat HaIlanot. And Bezrat Hashem, what we are usually every year we do is on the Shabbat immediately after Rosh Chodesh Nissan. So after the Kiddush, we go all outside and we make the bracha on Birkat HaIlanot. I am afraid that this year that would not be possible because of the situation. We can all hope that up to the next Shabbat we'll be able to meet all in Shabbat. We have Kiddush, but we have also to be realistic. So it may not happen. And in that case, then of course, each one of us would have to take responsibility for making the bracha. Maybe every minyan in the different locations would come out and make a bracha in their place, or each one in his own garden, his own house. But that's, I think it would be beautiful if we'd be able to make this intention to be reborn out of what we are stuck. Again, personally and nationally, we are stuck right now, and to be reborn into the Chodesh, the month of redemption. And that's, thank you for joining us for this first installment in the series. And in Mitzvah Hashem, next week we'll speak about matzah.
Well, Rabbi, why is it only fruit?
Why only fruits? Because fruits, I think, are the best examples of this reblooming. Because if it is reblooming but there are no fruits, then it's a lower grade. But if you can not only rebloom, but you can give fruits, then that is something that is considered a higher degree. Very good. So the fruit is the symbol of this rebirth, and also the fruit can be used just to grow this tree, and even to grow a new tree, and even to grow beautiful. Thank you so much. I think all of you, it was not only just a shiur, you enriched it very, very much, which for me was beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
ננסה לשחזר אותם בבית. בסדר, אני אעבור על התמלול. כל טוב, חודש טוב.